This guy wrote the blueprint on how to become an NFL GM with zero connections and no experience playing football. Most kids grow up dreaming of becoming a professional athlete, hitting a home run in the World Series, throwing a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl, but this guy was different. When people asked 9-year-old Howie Roseman what he wanted to be when he grew up, he knew exactly what to say. I'm going to be the general manager of a National Football League team. The adults would laugh. They thought he was crazy. Here was a kid who never played a single down of football, and yet he was talking about building an NFL roster, scouting talent, and negotiating contracts. What did he know? But young Howie was dead serious. Growing up in New Jersey, Howie negotiated his very first deal as a young kid, convincing his father, who wasn't even a football fan, to buy season tickets for the New York Jets. Up in the stands, he didn't dream about becoming the league's next superstar receiver or quarterback. He wanted to be the guy that drafted them. But there was just one problem. Howie was the only person in his family who even cared about sports. And because his parents didn't understand football, he wasn't allowed to play even if he wanted to. He said, "It didn't take long for me to see that with the size difference between me and my friends who were playing, that wasn't really my career route." When he wasn't at a Jets game with his dad, he was sitting on the couch watching football on TV by himself, studying the game and learning how teams were built. As he got older, his obsession grew. By the time he was an undergrad at the University of Florida, he had binders packed with player stats. In his dorm room, he built these massive draft boards of every player in the NFL draft. He was laser focused on his dream, but he needed to find a way in. According to a 2012 Philly Mag article, Roseman didn't have any legacy connections inside the league. No uncle who played in the 70s, no coach who knew his parents. He had as much of an inside track into the game as your average sports talk radio caller. So he did it the old-fashioned way. Between his senior year of high school and his third year of law school, Howie sent an estimated 1,100 letters to NFL teams. One letter to each team 3 or 4 times a year. He told Bleacher Report, "Rejections stacked as high as the ceiling in any room in your house. I never wanted to do anything else. I really didn't have a backup plan." Finally, one of his letters caught someone's attention. Then Eagles president Joe Banner. At the time, Banner asked, "Was this guy the most persistent guy in the history of America, or was he crazy? Should we stay away from him, or should one of us interview him?" Banner decided to take the interview, and just like that, Howie had his foot in the door. On paper, he was hired as a salary cap / staff counsel guy for the Eagles' 2000 season. In reality, he was an unpaid, entry-level intern who didn't even have his own desk. He actually sat at the end of an administrative assistant's desk, trying to soak up as much knowledge as possible. He said, "I was 25, fresh out of school, and I had all this energy and ideas, so I start shooting off questions. And finally, she turns to me and goes, 'Enough with the effing questions.'" But Howie didn't care. His dream had legs, and this was his opportunity. His old college roommate said, "Howie goes all in on everything he does. I knew that whatever he said he was going to be, he was going to be." And Howie was committed to ascending the ranks. Joe Banner said, "When you didn't know him, it was almost too much. Somebody who wants it that badly. I don't care what it takes. I don't care about the commute. I don't care what I get paid. I don't care what job you give me. I don't care where I have to sit. That will take care of itself in time." Howie had complete conviction and trusted the process. And later, he said he was fortunate to get in on the ground floor and be exposed to every area of the business. And in an industry where people bounce around and move to different organizations, he was able to stay with the same one and ascend the ranks level by level. 3 years after getting that unpaid internship, Howie was promoted to Director of Football Administration in 2003. 3 years after that, he was promoted to Vice President of Football Administration. In that role, he got a little bit more responsibility. He evaluated players for the NFL draft and also represented the team in salary cap, staff, and player personnel matters. Then, on January 29, 2010, he was named the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, becoming one of the youngest GMs in the history of the league. And the move was met with a lot of criticism. How could a guy with no playing experience be the one calling the shots? Internet commenters went absolutely ballistic. "Wow, I bet the rest of the NFC East is scared now. Another bean counter. I can't believe they hired this guy." But Howie ignored all the noise. In his first season as GM, he restructured the Eagles roster into one of the youngest in the league, and they won the NFC East. Still, he faced backlash from all directions. Scouts gave him the side eye, and his own players questioned his competence. In 2012, Eagles cornerback Asante Samuel took his own shot at Howie. He said they've probably never played football. It's a business, and they run it like a business. They're playing with a lot of money, playing like it's fantasy football, doing their thing. But again, Howie tuned it all out. He stayed focused on his goal. He had his eyes on the prize, bringing Philadelphia their first Lombardi trophy. He said, "No one wants to see you be successful. You got to be able to push through that negativity that you're going to inevitably face if you want to be successful." And that's exactly what he did. Howie replaced Joe Banner in 2012, and he went from a salary cap savant to a bona fide talent evaluator. Then, the train went off the rails. New head coach Chip Kelly came in and stripped Howie of team control in 2015. It was a very public exile. Pushed to the side just as he was 15 years earlier as an entry-level intern. It would have been very easy for him to give up or jump ship, but Howie stuck it out. Hall of Fame sports writer Ray Didinger said, "He was out there all the time, watching, and I think fully believing that he would get another chance." And he was right. After Chip Kelly got fired a short while later, Howie went right back to his old position, and he was ready for a chance at redemption. If you're a football fan, you know what happened next. Howie Roseman was the architect who helped bring the Philadelphia Eagles their very first Super Bowl championship. As Jason Kelce said in his famous Super Bowl parade speech, he was put on the other side of the building and I didn't see him for a year. He came out there with a purpose and drive to make this possible. And Howie pulled it off. He went from an underdog with no connections or football experience to becoming an award-winning GM and a Super Bowl champion. Today, he's a two-time Executive of the Year and one of the most powerful GMs in professional sports. He's built his reputation around three things: finding hidden gems in drafts, fleecing other teams in trades, and getting underappreciated assets in free agents. Paired with an unwavering confidence, his total obsession with football carried Howie down an unlikely path. To this day, that passion shines through. Every year, the Eagles media kit lists fun facts about different players and coaches and executives, favorite movies, books, TV shows, and finally, one simple question. If you were not in football, where would you be? Howie Roseman's response? Looking for a way to get into football.